Hey guys, so this is the picture I was talking about on my last video. Uh, that it's one of my favorite pictures. It's like a field. It's a field of lilies, and the way they're all growing together, they're all just kind of packed in with each other, but they're all growing pretty evenly. Um, the purpose of this video is something that I really went through yesterday. I really, you know, get to the basics of who we are, right? um, if we're these growing flowers, then we're growing over time forever. And so, if at any time you judge any part of that process, you have to put it in debt, right? That's why we live in the world that we live in, right? It's all based on debt and debt slavery. You'll always be a slave to debt because it's not the truth, right? It's always a temporary, it's not even temporary, it's a false image of what's actually going on because we're always looking at ourselves. And so the only reason that we would ever judge anybody is because we see ourselves as less than perfect. There's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with you. But if you believe that there is, then that perception creates a dysfunction that actually manifests in the body as illness and sickness of the mind. It's uh, it's one of the most profound healing understandings that you can get to. Is that the judgment itself, the thing that happens in your mind, is what brings sickness, right? And there's nothing wrong with anything. It's that it's all growing, and it's always growing in darkness. The seed for all the flowers that you see in this field grew in darkness until they finally reached up. And you want to be a blooming plant, right? We all want to be blooming, beautiful plants that open up to and the parts of us that bloom open up to the sky and the sun. And I know these are all metaphors, but it's just the way that you project that the plant is providing its energy. And what is the flower doing? Right? It's doing a bunch of things. It's showing its beauty, it's blossoming, it's transmuting, it's turning all the carbon dioxide to oxygen that's floating by. It doesn't get to decide how much oxygen or how much sunlight it gets. It just accepts whatever it is given and provides what it has to provide according to its own understanding. See the lilies of the field and how they grow. When you project any kind of judgment of the mind, you're projecting a debt. That's why, and so you're weighing something as less than, or, and so when this has been the most difficult path for me personally, and here's where I'm going to get personal, especially when it comes to me, because I have to tell this from my own interpretation of myself, or else I would be doing you just a disservice, right? I can talk about it in metaphors and parables all day long, but unless I can communicate it, which is something that in the past I have not been good at, because communicating our emotions can be difficult, especially if we think that we're going to be seen as weak, right? And that's been my problem because can honestly say that I've done my best never to fall out of love for anybody that I can come in contact with. And I knew that the only thing that I ever ran into, and the only problem that I would ever run into, is my ability to feel love for the people around me. But I forgot that how much I had to make sure that I loved myself. And when we see everybody judging one another as less than because they don't feel good about themselves, and everybody says, oh, well, I'm not perfect, but we just do the best. No, if you say that you're not perfect, then what are you comparing to? Right? What exactly are you comparing to that was perfect? And then people always point to Jesus, right? Oh, he was the Son of God, and that's what created Christianity. But what they don't remember is exactly how everything went down. Right? He specifically talked about how when somebody finally called him the Son of God, he knew that he couldn't declare it himself, right? Because if he did that, you got to have a witness involved. And they killed him because of that declaration. And when he confirmed, and they are, because he, remember, Caesar asked him, "Are you the son of God?" And then he can't lie. Somebody who knows the truth cannot lie. He said, "Well, yes, I am." And then they hung him. They crucified him for it. But before they crucified him, he said, "Doesn't it? It just says it even in your own text that ye are the sons of God. As long as you're, not as long as you're doing this, but there's an understanding, and that's why you understand that you are in the temple of the Most High and under the shadow of El Shaddai, which is the feminine portion of the Godhead, which is in Psalms 91." He was just referencing Psalms 91. Somebody that doesn't know who they are will we never elevate the people around us to a station above that we understand ourselves at. And the reason is because everything's a mirror, right? You guys are all gods in your own right. We're all creating on our own reality, and it's how we view ourselves and how we're projecting that out into the world. And so if I ever blame somebody for a lack of understanding, I would be blaming myself for a lack of understanding, right? We understand truths as we get them. So how could I ever create a debt for anybody? All you can do is do what you're asked, and then be open to receive. I have nothing to sell other than I can tell you how to heal your mind. That one simple rule, right? Don't view yourself in a negative light. And know that you will never have all the answers. We're not supposed to. All we have to do is unconditionally love one another. And don't hold anybody accountable for any judgments of debt. That's why the whole legal system is all dressed up in black robes. Right? It's dark magic. And it's why, if you really understand what happened there, it's why they killed all the disciples. If you've got a group of people teaching people not to judge themselves or each other, that's the only reason the money exists, right? Is because somebody wanted to judge their time as being more important. So what happens when that happens? Let's take a 300 or 400 person community. If you took 400 people, and this is why small isolated communities don't have money, right? There'd be no reason to. What would be the point? Everybody's just fulfilling roles that are needed for the community. As soon as it expands, it gets bigger. Introduce money. The people that have the most emotional attachments to external wealth and don't see the psychological damage that happens when you start to identify with things external, those people will accumulate all of that wealth. The other people won't care about it. And they're not, right? So then you have, as soon as you collect all that money, as soon as, let's say, the people that care about it collect all the money, they have to pay those people to work for them, or create another system to keep increasing the amount of wealth that they can continue. So you have to create a debt-based system, right? Because you've identified with something external, something that changes. It's always changing. It's a lie. You're never changing. you're only changing your perception of yourself and the world around you. The basics of who you are never change. You're always source coming to a greater understanding of itself. Right? So for me, I was a super sensitive kid, obviously. I mean, if you're watching this video, you might think about that. So I was timid because I grew up with, and there's a reason behind everything. My dad was very unstable when I was really young, and I was the first kid. And he never had a really good relationship with his oldest brother because, he thought he was stupid growing up. And so he was always in a state of confusion, and he has, it's not a learning disability, it's something, everything is inherited when you really understand where it comes from spiritually. It's all lineage stuff. But he's always interpreting what he was being said in his environment and twisting it around because he was always in his own head. And so my grandmother took him to college when he was young, and the psychologist there just told him, well, Billy's got a slow mind. But that's actually not true. My dad is very intelligent, and he gets hard on himself because he's not staying present and not listening to what's going on around him. So he's not able to focus on what he's doing. And he's 81 now, so it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But if you know what's going on there, then you can practice it. And so you want to love one another, encourage each other to practice things, and make sure that you're not getting down on yourself for something that is temporary. It's not who you are, right? It's just a temporary thing that you're growing through. Why would you do that to yourself, right? And so that in and of itself, knowing that, because if you judge yourself according to your performance, then you'll never grow, right? You've judged yourself. And so just that act will create a negative emotional state to create a blockage so you don't continue to, the performance doesn't get better. It doesn't grow. And that's why judgment is so bad, so terrible, right? Because it blocks growth. Now, let's expand that to what the organism is going through. How much stuff do you see on social media? Is there judgments being thrown around at all? Do people judge each other as what they're doing is unhealthy? Man, the political field is just, the only reason politics exists is because money exists, because of judgment, and because it's just that, right? You have to have a central authority to try and keep all that stuff alive and regulate it. You're regulating judgment and debt. That's all you're doing. So it's toxic. It doesn't allow things to grow. Like, it doesn't unlock its potential. And so my own journey has been, for me, not to judge myself for the things. Just, you feel like when you're causing yourself pain or you're making decisions. So since I was a timid kid, we'll go back to the story. I was a timid kid, and I wasn't confident in myself because I had a really poor relationship with my dad for that reason. So, he never wanted to do anything with me when I was younger. And he always gave more attention to my younger brother. And so when I was younger, I used to take it out on him, right? And unconsciously, not even aware of what I was doing. Because I loved my brother, but I didn't know how to show it. The only way I knew how to show it was to take it out on him the same way my dad took it out on me, right? You're just displaying, we're all displaying the same tendencies in our environment. And so you kind of have to retrain your mind and remember that you need to communicate. We have to communicate how much we love each other all the time. and not fall into judgment. And don't try and rush it. Don't try and rush a relationship. Never try and rush a relationship, right? Get to understand yourself and understand the other person really well. Don't jump in the sack with anybody. I wouldn't advise doing that, right? It's okay. Um, uh, so since I was timid, a lot of the I remember a lot of the girls in high school thought that I was gay when I was in high school. It's like, and then when people, project that on you, it's like, huh, maybe I am. It's like, men and women are beautiful. But I mean, for me personally, I can't imagine. I mean, yeah, your mind can go into any kind of thing you want to, right? You can imagine anything, but actually doing it, nah, just. But so for that reason, when I was approached by the first girl that approached me, I said yes. And I loved her. I genuinely loved her. But, and I didn't learn the lesson from the first time. She judged herself so harshly and couldn't see herself being with me long term. I never would have left her. And I told her as much. But she left me twice, two different times, in a fairly short amount of time after a couple of years. And then I was alone for about 4 years. And then I got married because I said yes to the very next girl who came across my path, who showed interest in me, even though my gut told me that she wasn't right for me. And I said yes because I believed, I had it in my mind that I believed that unconsciously that unconditional love is everything. And I know that it is. Never to hold people for debts. But that relationship ended up in divorce because of my inability to communicate my love correctly, and B, because judgment of the self, right? You don't realize how you're judging yourself until you can talk about unconditional love and everything like that, but if there's still parts of yourself that you're judging as being poor, being less than, or right, if you're judging your decisions that you're making as being bad, then there's a part of you that can't communicate the kind of love that someone needs. I do believe that unconditional love can heal all wounds, but you have to be able to communicate it. You have to heal the mind and the mind-heart connection so that you can communicate those things to your friends and family. And it doesn't do any of us any good just to cut each other off and not communicate why. I'm as guilty as anybody to blame for that, right? I would just pull myself away if somebody wasn't showing me unconditional love and just acceptance, and not using me for external things, right? If it feels like you've been used just to put money in someone else's pocket, most of the time it's like, okay, am I going to communicate that? Is that a good idea for me to communicate that? Would it do any good? Eventually, you'll pay the penalty for doing that. Right? You don't ever use anybody just to put money in your own pocket unless you're in a state of need, and sometimes beggars can be choosers, and that's okay, right? That doesn't bother me. But when people intentionally go out of their way to manipulate other people for money, or anything exterior, that's a judgment, right? It's actually an insecurity because you don't believe that you can be taken care of. The son will always be taken care of, and the daughter. I call it the son because the Bible uses, and the Hebrew language uses the masculine words to embody both the feminine and masculine aspects. It could be a feminine word. I don't know. It's just because it was a masculine culture. And yeah, but um, so then there's a journey after that to become, to try and get clarity. Make sure that, okay, I need to make sure that I'm getting clarity before I enter relationships. Making sure that I'm in the right place to understand what's in front of me. Right? It's hard. That's why spiritualism, the spiritualists, most of them are on their own. And then they say that healing is a never ending process because trust has been broken down, and there's no trust when there's debt. Right? If you have debt, there's no trust. Because how could you trust somebody that thinks that they're owed a debt? You can't. Can't trust themselves, right? Because you're always thinking that there's something out there that owes you something. Now here's a secret. If you know in your heart that nobody ever owes you anything, because we're all acting out of some level of unconsciousness, and we're all growing more conscious over time, then nothing will ever be expected of you more than what you would expect from other people and yourself. Now, I expect a lot from myself, just for me, but I don't expect it from other people. Other than, if you're going to partner, work with other people, that's a totally different thing. If you want to work with other people, you want them to be in a state of unconditional love and to accept one another unconditionally and not treat each other unequally, right? You don't want to be unequally yoked where one person is worth more than another, because we're not. We all have unlimited potential. So you want to treat people according to their potential, not if you create a temporary judgment of who you think they are, you're actually limiting their potential for doing that. And that's why this is the motivation for every project that I do. That's why I am who I am. And I haven't been with another person since I got divorced in 2012 because I have to gain clarity. I have to make sure that I am gaining clarity. And I don't want to put myself in a position, and it's not out of fear. For one thing, if you really love somebody, then the last thing you want to do is give them something that they're not ready for. Yeah. And you want to, not only that, so here's another aspect of that too. Since I've always loved, it doesn't matter where anybody's at, right? I love everybody no matter what stage of growth we're at, no matter how hard we are on ourselves or how much conflict you might be with the people around you. I love you. I totally accept you. But my phone, dang, I can't remember where I was going with that. It's like you're just creating boundaries, right? You're just creating boundaries for uh, just not holding anybody liable for anything, right? And be open to receive. Because if somebody asked me for help, like, yeah, I would never say no because they didn't have any money, and I would never say no because they have a lot of money and they didn't want to pay. I would always say yes. And it's up to their conscience. It's up to them whether or not they think that they can be gracious to offer something back to me. I'm never going to create a blockage and say, I won't do this for you unless you give me that. Because that's a debt-based mindset. It means I have a lack of something. And I don't. I'll never have a lack for loving you or offering help in any way. And if you take that mindset on, then the same will be for you. right? Or me. If I need help, then the universe will dish something out to there to help me, because I would never, you know, if I never didn't have any money and I needed help, because that's not what I would, right? Somebody needs help fixing their car, anything that I could do, that I could offer up in my time. It doesn't necessarily need to be money, because money just is just a debt-based system that doesn't mean anything. It's trying to represent our time, and it doesn't adequately do that, because when you try to measure your time, then you're actually trying to create time in a linear fashion when it's not. And there's a secret there. That's why unconditional love is so powerful, because you break time down and then it collapses, and then you can actually create from the heart space and create things that we've never seen before. Well, maybe. Yeah. I don't know how much there is to say, other than when people really understand this enough, then just let it all go. Whatever it is you're holding on to, let it go, and then you can start creating and receiving together, and creating from a point of a nurturing energy, right? To nurture the relationships around you, and come from a place of unconditional love, and then just set boundaries to make sure it doesn't grow dysfunctional. Right? I mean, the last thing you want it to do is turn into like an orgy sex cult. That wouldn't do anybody, because it's a negative emotional attachment to the physical, right? Everything in moderation. Balance and moderation, and pretty much all your stuff, or it's not enjoyable anymore, right? You can overdo anything. I can overdo coffee. I only have coffee like probably once a week on average, just because, man, if I drink it every day, it's too much. And maybe that's why I'm making this video, just because I started this cup of coffee. I felt like visiting one of my friends that works at a coffee shop and talking to her. She's super cool. So I got some coffee. Oh, that's where I was going. For me, and understanding yourself. So for me personally, understanding yourself and how you are, and this is why, I've had a few, not a bunch, but a few opportunities for relationships in the last 12, 13 years. And for me personally, I needed to gain clarity on who I am, right? And I realized that, and that was the reason that I left my last relationship, because for me, I'm a public service guy. And I want to make sure that the person I'm with, you got to be the most secure person in the world, right? Because, and for where my heart's at, I mean, I could end up getting very intimate with a lot of other women, just from a healing standpoint, to make sure that they understand that they're okay, and that they're beautiful, they're right. But if you had somebody that was insecure that you're with, it would be, you'd be constantly trying to ground that out, and then you actually did them a disservice, because you got with them before they were ready. Just like I know from that I wasn't ready, because you have to understand yourself. And so for me, I don't know where I'll want to divide my time. Maybe it would be try to half and half, community service and domestic life. Who knows which way it would go, because you don't know how much the community is going to need from you, and when, and who's going to be available. It's one of those things that it needs what it needs. And the same thing with domestic life, because those people need you. You create families, and we all need each other. We're all family. And when you expand out to the larger family, that family to me is just as important to me, because I could have developed a relationship with anybody in my lifetime and loved them unconditionally, as long as they did the same for me. Yeah. I don't know if much of this resonates with you guys. It's just something that hit my heart yesterday, and I just wanted to talk about it. Eventually, you just stop crying, I cried for so long about the state of the world and the debts that people hold against one another, and grudges and all this stuff, and wishing the best for everybody. But eventually, you have to make sure that you're wishing the best for yourself, because you have to change. You have to get over all that stuff before you can be of any use to anybody. Because if you're drowning in sorrow constantly, you never really can be what you need to be for the people that you love and care about. And it could be as big as it could be as many people as you want. But you can only, I mean, you can only be so much for so many people. And in the end, all we have is love for one another, and then get to experience what we're creating together. And there infinite. That's what blows my mind, is when you really understand it and you break it down. If you can just create a human embryo where we're all connected, like in just a basic design of a human embryo, the things that we create would be so much better than what we're creating now. It's super toxic, right? I mean, video games where we're shooting each other, phones that just don't leave you alone, that just want to trip your dopamine response, AI that tries to suck you in, and I mean, AI has no power of relationship. I mean, there's just so much stuff that just is toxic that it's just, ugh, why'd we build it? And it's all because we're focusing on the exterior and identifying with things out there. And so, since we're identifying with something that's temporary, we hold each other in debt because we believe that some level of knowledge is power. But the ultimate level of knowledge is the fact that we don't know everything, and we don't want to. And so there should be no debt, only support growth for each other. Yeah. I hope I've gotten my point across. This is the main thing for my channel. It's the thing, flowers don't judge how much light they're getting or how much moisture they're getting. They just transmute whatever comes across their way and then accept whatever is given. So I encourage you to be a flower, because one day you'll bloom to something more beautiful. And it doesn't escape me that one of the most beautiful flowers, the rose, is also the thorniest. You can't just grab a rose. It's beautiful to look at. Don't try grabbing it. Right? Anyway. Love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Oh, I want to cover one more thing. Because of clarity and understanding these things, it's that when we put up with toxic behavior, and we allow ourselves to just entertain toxic behavior or judgment of the mind, debt-based systems, then we give it our energy. We keep it alive, right? You can keep weeds alive if you want to keep weeds alive, because that system was created. It started with a judgment of the mind, right? The reason that, remember, all of that system is there because it started as a judgment in the mind that I am greater than that. And it's actually that when you create that, it's actually an insecurity and actually makes you less than that thing, right? You're actually doing yourself a disservice by saying that. And so the end result is death. You're killing yourself unconsciously. But it doesn't know that. The best thing to do is to pull your energy away from it so that it has to self-reflect and understand it. Why was it judging that thing, right? Because if it's judging you as less, it's going to pay you less. It's not going to honor your time the same the way that it's honored its time. Capitalism, right? Some hierarchy of someone making more than everybody else, and there's so much conflicts within that system that it doesn't honor growth, and there's no way for it to create for what it's creating to grow, and that's why it looks like that. It's all based on judgment of the mind. So the only thing to do is pull yourself away from it and to create something for yourself. And if you understand who is for you, then as soon as you understand yourself and you're no longer judging, then you'll want to connect with people that are in the same state. And it's a lot easier to work with a group of people who aren't judgmental. Life can be pretty fun, right? I mean, imagine the potential of working like that with a group of people who are just self-supportive, and all of their energy is focused on that. You're not worried about the debt-based system, right? You can just create a barrier to sell whatever it is you're creating. Right? If you guys want to live that way, sure, you can buy this stuff here if you want, or not, right? Because if you got enough people, you would create a bubble in space-time, literally, right? Because you raise your energetic profile so high, the other world wouldn't even see you. They probably know you exist, but in order for them to get into it, you can heal them. And I've seen this, and this is a prophetic word. That's what's going to happen, right? You got a percentage of the population that pulls itself away, and it's like it's in its own little energetic bubble, and then the old world will see it, and that's when you'll see the differences widen. One will start to bloom like a beautiful flower, and it'll grow and grow, and the people will grow within it and expand their healing ability, for one thing. And the healing ability will expand at the same rate that it needs to heal any level of toxicity for the system that's killing itself. Right? That's always the way nature works. There's always a solution to a problem. No matter how toxic one gets, there's a solution over here to make sure that it can offer help when it's needed. And that's why just before the shift, I've heard visions, and this is one of the most accurate visions I've ever heard, where you've got people. Imagine what it would be like for somebody that was, let's say, a mass murderer. Somebody could not forgive themselves, and has witnessed everybody go to the other side and living in peace and harmony, and they can't let go of that. They're just not worthy. They'd be eating themselves, and then the call will go out before the shift. Get as many as you can, and you won't be able to heal that person until that point, because everything that you went through prepared you to be able to heal anything. So amazing. It's so amazing how beautiful this world works. How beautiful it all works. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know how much else there is to say, but it's all based on love. The whole system is love. There isn't any part of it that isn't. And you just get to a place of remembering. Love you guys. Have a great day.